Welcome back, guys. My name is Patrick.
I'm Mike.
And this is the Oilers Fanatic Round 3 preview between the Edmonton Oilers and the Colorado Avalanche. So just before we dig into the series preview, Mike, just want to get your thoughts on Edmonton's 5-game defeat of the Calgary Flames.
Suck it, Kachuk. I hate the Calgary Flames. And I love the fact that all they do is play the excuse game. Looking back on it, I can't believe the boys beat them in 5 games. Hey, I picked it to go 7. I thought it was going to go the distance, but sorry, will the real Calgary Flames please stand up? And they sure did, because they were nowhere, right? In that first game, it was almost like that was everything that they had. And yet the Oilers were able to find another gear and then beat them 4 straight. It's like I keep saying, suck it, Kachuk. Now Calgary's in a world of hurt because Johnny Hockey and Kachuk both need to re-sign this summer. Calgary can't be feeling great about themselves after being embarrassed, really, by the Edmonton Oilers. And great on it, because I'm an Oilers fan, so I loved every single stinking minute of it. My pick, Mr. Hyman there, it's not too shabby to score in every one of those games and be really viable. You look at what happened, yes, he got off the schneid. Evander Kane had another solid series. Come on, Holland, give that, show that boy his money. I don't care what any of the other pundits say either. Kane needs to stay as an Oiler. He's the only guy that I've seen in the tenure that we've had McDavid that can actually play on McDavid's line and be as effective as what Draisaitl is. Not to that extent, because it's ridiculous the chemistry that that Draisaitl and McDavid have. But you know what? As a 1A or a 1B, Kane is phenomenal on that left side with Connor.
Yeah, and ideally you want Connor and Leon running their own lines, right? Like in the playoffs, you got to put your best foot forward, put your best weapons and putting them on the same line has been really effective to close out the series against LA, to close out the Calgary Flames. But yeah, how long have the Oilers been looking for a left winger that can play with Connor McDavid?
Exactly.
And produce like Evander Kane does.
Right.
So that's why I think, don't go absolutely crazy with a contract, but I think you've probably got to get him for 4 years or something like that.
You know what? Even if you did something like a 3x5, 3x6, 4x5, I think it's going to be doable.
So let's get started with our round 3 preview. Edmonton Oilers, Colorado Avalanche. The Edmonton Oilers have made it to round 3.
I can't. Even you saying it still doesn't seem real.
It doesn't
right?
feel real right now, but it's amazing. Like the guys, like you said, Zach Hyman, Evander Kane, they've had a great supporting staff. Nuge, yes, he finally got off the schneid, like you said, and Connor and Leon have led the way. Mike Smith, I thought he was pretty good against LA. He did struggle a bit against Calgary, so he's got to step it up against Colorado, because I don't think the Oilers are going to have the opportunities to come back in games like they did against Calgary, so they don't want to be falling behind 2-0, 3-0 to the Avs. But if Mike Smith can step it up like he was against LA, I like the Oilers' chances.
Well, what do you think the Oilers' chances that they could figure out Kemper just like they figured out Markstrom? You look at St. Louis, and it wasn't for a lack of scoring, because St. Louis did go through stretches in those games where they seemed to have, Kemper's number. Colorado's got that same kind of disease that a lot of these really good teams have, is that when they think they should walk on a team, when they let up just even a little bit, that's where it becomes interesting, because it seems that they're letting these teams get back into these games.
All right, so let's get into how we got here. The Edmonton Oilers, I think everyone knows how the Oilers got here. 4-3 series victory over the LA Kings. 4-1 mini Stanley Cup victory over the Calgary Flames.
Yeah,
in round 2. That's what it felt
like. The Alberta
Cup.
Cup.
That's what it felt like to me. The
Alberta Cup.
The Colorado Avalanche swept the Nashville Predators in the first round 4-0. Take down the St. Louis Blues in round 2, 4-2. And with being the higher seed, the Colorado Avalanche will have home ice advantage for this round. The Oilers and Avs have faced each other in the playoffs twice before, in 1997 and 1998. In 97, the Oilers were coming off their stunning first-round upset of the Dallas Stars, but the Avs brought them back down to earth, eliminating them in 5 games. And in 1998, the Oilers got their revenge, thanks to the heroics of Curtis Joseph, as the Oilers came back from being down 3-1 to take the series 4-3 with 3 straight wins. Curtis Joseph went 163 minutes and 40 seconds without surrendering a goal. That is insane.
It was awesome.
Yeah, I know. I remember that series.
I was just out of high school, man. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's not as far back as when the Oilers and Flames and Oilers and Kings played. We can actually both kind of have a good memory of it. So,
well, I still remember when they won the cup back in, 91, 90?
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah, I was around, but before my time being an Oilers fan. So a special note for this series, Oilers assistant coach Dave Manson will be taking on his son, Josh Manson. So I'm kind of hoping the Oilers go after Josh Manson as a free agent. Don't know if they'll have the cap space to do it, but I think he'd be a great physical addition to the Oilers' top four. So the Oilers and Avs played each other 3 times this season. The Avs took the first 2 meetings, winning 3-2 in overtime on March 21st and 2-1 in a shootout on April 9th. The Oilers pulled off a decisive 6-3 victory in the final meeting of the season on April 22nd. Evander Kane picked up a hat trick in that game, so big game for Kane. I think the 6-3 game was the one where they clinched their playoff spot, I believe, if I remember correctly. So
it is, yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely a big night for the Oilers. So for each round, I picked 3 key players to watch for both the Edmonton Oilers and the Colorado Avalanche. My 3 players to watch for the Edmonton Oilers are the same as last round. Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl both with 7 goals and 19 assists so far in the playoffs. Evander Kane, the Oilers' leading goal scorer in the playoffs with 12 goals and 3 assists.
Awesome.
Yeah, Kane's just having amazing playoffs. And the 3 key players I've chosen for Colorado, Nathan MacKinnon. He finished the regular season with 88 points, 32 goals, and 56 assists. So far in the playoffs, he has 8 goals and 5 assists. Defenseman Cale Makar, who had 86 points in the regular season, 28 goals and 58 assists. He has 3 goals and 10 assists in the playoffs so far. And Gabriel Landeskog, who finished with 59 points in just 51 games played in the regular season, 30 goals and 29 assists. He has 6 goals and 5 assists so far in the postseason. So Oilers and Avs, both with a lot of firepower on both sides, forwards and defense. This is going to be a great series. So let's take a look at the Oilers and Avalanche head-to-head through the following categories: coaching, forwards, defense, and goal. Coaching. Jay Woodcroft takes on Jared Bednar. I'm going to call this category a draw. Head-to-head this season, all 3 games the Oilers and Avs played were very close. The Oilers' dominant victory came when the Avs were likely taking their foot off the gas slightly, like I mentioned. The Oilers clearly had more to play for at that point. Bednar has more experience, but not an overwhelming amount more. And Woodcroft has proven with this playoff run that he's not in over his head taking on coaches with more experience, finding answers for both Todd McClellan and Daryl Sutter. What do you think, Mike?
I think you exactly right. I think you look at the way that these 2 teams are set up and the way these 2 teams have been coached this season, going into the playoffs and through their first 2 rounds each. I think you're right. I think it's really close. Like it's right down the middle. I though would probably, because of the first 2 round coaches that Woodcroft had to go against, right? Tenured coaches, really good, Stanley Cup winners. I would put a slight edge to Woodcroft just because of his ingenuity and doing, more with less and less with more, right? He just seems to have some kind of a recipe of success in his head and can change things. I'm not saying the Colorado's coach doesn't have that. I don't know him well enough to make that assertion, but you just look at the way that they've both come into this Western final, and I would put a slight edge to Woodcroft, just a slight edge.
Well, he clearly outcoached Daryl Sutter, which I did not see coming. Like
no one did.
The Flames.
No one did.
The Flames had no answer for what the Oilers were able to do. Well, I think the Avs play a stronger defensive game than the Oilers, and like MacKinnon, I think it was 88 points, I said, and then Connor was like well over 120.
Yeah. So
like points wise, it's not even close. But I think the Avs can like spread it out, and they do a better job of keeping the puck out of the net. So the offense doesn't need to be there as much as it does for the Oilers, because sometimes the Oilers have to kind of outscore their mistakes. And you could say the Avs most of the time don't make the mistakes that the Oilers make, so they don't have to come back.
See, but you can say it's a head-to-head against MacKinnon, but MacKinnon is not McDavid, right? And McDavid he didn't even play great in that last game against Calgary.
Yeah,
but through his,
yeah.
right, because that's what he said in the post. He's just like, yeah, I didn't really have my legs and everything else, and then Dry made this great pass off the wall, and I just shot it. And it's like, I think that's going to be the biggest caveat is who's going to have that potential to make that top tier play.
The Colorado Avalanche, on average in the regular season, allowed 2.83 goals against. The Edmonton Oilers, on average in the regular season, allowed 3.06 goals against. A clear win for the Avalanche, and the other big factor that gives the Avs the win in this category is the dynamic Cale Makar.
100% agree.
Terrific defensively, and a major factor offensively when he joins the rush. The Avs do have 2 key injuries on defense, though. Samuel Girard is out for the rest of the season with a sternum injury.
Oh, that's right.
And Ryan Murray is dealing with a fractured wrist and is out indefinitely. But even still, how good the Avs are, with those injuries, the Avs defense remains formidable.
I think the keys are going to be, and don't get me wrong, I think Colorado wins it against our defense. I love Cece and stuff, but I think if you put Makar and Darnell Nurse head to head, it's no contest. But I think, though, is that if you have a response for some of these guys, like if they are able to somehow eliminate Makar from the picture, looking forward, I think that
won't be easy.
Well, it's not. The guy's a slippery little weasel, right? And he's as good as he is for a reason, because he puts in the work, right? And he is really, really good. Like, he's got highlight reel goals, just like Connor does. Not as many, mind you, but he's still young, right? And he's still growing, and he's still growing into his game.
So lastly, in goal, for the Oilers so far in the playoffs, Mike Smith is 8-3 with a goals against average of 2.70 and a save percentage of .927. For the Avalanche so far in the playoffs, Darcy Kemper is 6-2 with a goals against average of 2.44 and a save percentage of .904. And Pavel Francouz is 2-0 with a goals against average of 2.97 and a save percentage of .902.
So, when you say that, we're Francouz, or however you say his last name. Yeah, so how healthy is Kemper? How, is he going to be able to be the one that goes the distance? Everybody's been saying everything about Mike Smith, and I get it. He had a couple rocky games, but he was still able to have the guys in front of him, close it out when he wasn't doing as well, other than the first game. But I liked what Woody had to say last series, right? It's like he's in mid-season form, right? He didn't play no 63 games this year, and I think Kemper's not at 100%, right? No. He's not at 100%. And so can the Oilers exploit that a little bit?
But Francouz has played very well for the Avs, so even if it does go to him, it's not like it's huge advantage for the Oilers, but it would be an advantage.
Yeah, it would be huge advantage, but it'd be the same thing like when Koskinen had to come in the other day. When these guys aren't playing, like in the regular season, where they're not playing, 4 or 5 times a month, right? It makes it really hard if they're just sitting on the bench for 6-7 days in a row, and then Kemper's getting lit up, so go throw him in.
So overall, I give the advantage to the Avs. We know the Oilers can score. This will ultimately come down to their ability to shut down the Avs attack. So I want to take a look too. Could we see some surprise players in this series? Guys like Dylan Holloway and Stuart Skinner are up with the Oilers right now. Jay Woodcroft has stated that he would have no problem putting Dylan Holloway in right now. I think it would be more of a stretch if we see Stuart Skinner, because it would probably...
I don't think you're seeing... Unless Mike Smith gets injured, you're not seeing Skinner.
Yeah, probably.
And even if he did, I don't think... That's not what you want to do. You don't want to take a goaltender, even though that he's going to be our goaltender next year, right? Mikko,
one of them anyway. Yeah.
Well, one of them, right? I just can't see it. And Mike Smith doesn't look like he's at all tired.
Yeah, I think you're right. We're not going to see Skinner unless there's a significant injury to Mike Smith. If one of the Oilers' big guns went down, say we lost an Evander Kane or we lost a Zach Hyman, heaven forbid. But I could see Holloway stepping in for one of those guys, because he's one of those guys who could bring offense. and he could probably play with one of the Oilers' top players. So my player to watch for this series is goaltender Mike Smith. Does Old Man Smith have some miracles left in him? The Oilers need him to outduel Darcy Kemper, a former target of the Oilers, if the Oilers are going to take this series. So who would be your player to watch, Mike?
Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. I think Nuge has been a quiet leader. I think he had that really great game where he scored the 2 goals in Game 4. But he's been after it. He's been playing in all different situations.
So let's go to series predictions. So I'm going to go Oilers in 6 games. Without a doubt, the Avs will be the Oilers' biggest challenge yet. They matched up well against them in the regular season, and I think they can take this series. But as I've said, defense will be the key. So Oilers in 6 for me. What do you say, Mike?
Man, I like I said, I think there's a little bit of the hand of the hockey gods on this Edmonton Oilers club right now. I think with everything that's going on, how can you not take them in 5 again? I really do think. I think that the Oilers are just progressing and they're starting to, hit it right at the right time. So I'm going to say Oilers in 5. Even though people don't think it, I think these two teams are so closely matched. And where Kemper's not at 100%, I think it makes it more of a match with, Mike Smith, right? Call it the absence of Roley the goalie, right? Roley was in the building there for Game 5, signing autograph, or Game 4, signing autographs and stuff. And you know what? There just seems to be something about this hockey club that they're just finding a way. They're finding an extra gear. They're finding a goal.
So as we mentioned, it all gets started Tuesday, May 31st, 6 o'clock, Game 1, Oilers Avs. Can't wait. My name is Patrick.
My name's Mike.
And this has been the Oilers Fanatic Round 3 preview. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. You've been watching the Oilers Fanatic. Thanks for being a fan.
Suck it, Kachuk.
Let's go Oilers.